Well, good evening and welcome to PJNet Live. This is actually a first. I want to pause just a moment. I know we don't have a lot of time because we have another guest coming, but I just want to pause and give praise to God. We are actually doing right now something that has been dreamed about and has been a goal for years and years and years here at PJNet Live. We welcome, if you are viewing live on Facebook, Twitter by way of Periscope, or YouTube, thank you for joining in with us tonight. It's great to have live audience out there. Welcome to those of you in the chat room. Many of you who are regulars remember Felicia, who came to visit us, I don't know, a week or two ago, it seems, not too long. And I remember she talked about her involvement of her daughter or daughters in not only her ministry and mission trips and books and all that, but we've come to find out that her daughter, Megan, is her videographer. And I have seen recently where she has actually employed some videos in social media, and I am thrilled to death to have, for the first time ever, two live guests here on PJNet Live. And over here we have Felicia, who you've seen before, and over here we have her daughter Megan. So, Mom, you're oldest. We got to talk to you first, and I applaud you for using video. But I'm curious, having seen the effect of video in your ministry, one, I'd like to get your comments on that. But two, if your daughter wasn't in the business, do you think you'd still do it? Let me know.
Oh, that's a great question. I've really seen video captivate the audience in regard to my stories. It's a way to catch their attention and get them excited about this series. I think video is just such a compelling media to reach people. And I don't know if I would have done it if I didn't have that wonderful resource in my daughter, just because I don't know if I would have known where to look for someone to do it or had the resources to afford it. So it's been a tremendous blessing.
She doesn't charge you anything, does she?
She gives me the family discount.
Megan, you are in another state, and when did your mom, who hatched this idea? You started this new company, Plum Media. Tell us about that.
Absolutely. Well, before we ever launched, my mother came out with this series, the International Mission Force series, and I loved it so much. And I told her, you really ought to be using video. And she said, well, if you want to put together a video, then that's fine. You do that. And so that's when we did the book trailer, and we did it entirely with stock video that we found online. Most of it free stock video. And we recorded the audio separately. We had voice actors, and it turned out so well. That was actually one of the projects that propelled us to think about doing video professionally. So we launched Plum Media in May of 2018, June. So just over a year ago, and it's really taken off.
Now, what type of clientele are you serving? I mean, this is kind of a new thing. How do you find customers?
Absolutely. That is a great question. I think that's the question for anyone in business, right? For me, because my time is extremely limited and I devote a lot of time to each project, I will seek out businesses that I want to work with. And we basically make video assets for them based on what problems they want to solve with video.
Mom, what do you think about all this?
I've just been amazed as I've watched Megan step out in faith in something that she felt called to. I've been amazed at how God has blessed that and has brought her clients, has helped her learn the business, and it's just been a wonderful thing to watch.
You don't have to sell me on video. I'm very sold on it, and I've never done this. I'm not a videographer. I've just sort of self-taught. But one of the things that has challenged me is not the learning curve, not the technology, but when you're making a film for a client that's paying you to do it, that's one thing. But when you're trying to do a ministry using video, you've got to produce content and you've got to put it out there on social media. And I am just amazed at how things can just go thud that I think are good and others think are good, but it's very crowded out there. And Megan, have you ever tried to work on a social media campaign or anything like that? Or are you strictly making videos for clients?
Yeah, absolutely. So some of the clients are looking towards social media. I know one client that we just started with will be focusing on building a YouTube presence for her.
Good luck.
Yeah, it is a very saturated field, but that's where you really have to do your research, right? And do your homework. And basically, you need to know what makes YouTube tick. You need to kind of flip it inside out and look at the algorithm to see what's going to carry you. And you do have to test around a little bit to see what your audience is hungry for, and that's for anyone. I think before you start putting out content, and I see this a lot in businesses, especially when they find just some guy with a camera to make video for them, right? And usually it's like a family member, a friend, and they're like a budding artist. But what's really crucial is that you understand the obstacles you're trying to overcome, right? That you're using video as a tool more than an art form. It's still an art form, obviously, and we can be artistic about it, but seeing it as a tool to leverage your strengths and to directly target what you're trying to fix.
Now, Felicia, you're not into all this stuff, and you're being very accommodating. Thank you. You're long suffering. But I asked this question of another author. I wonder sometimes when you talk about this type of performing art, it is an art form. It's easy to get caught up into molding the product as it's being made to be more marketable, more sellable. And mm-hmm. Megan, I'm trying to find how in the world do you make a difference on YouTube, and I don't have the answer, but part of the reason I think, Felicia, tell me if this has ever crossed your mind. If I were willing to be bombastic, put on a hat, cuss a lot, what I'm saying, it becomes a performance. When you're writing a book, especially a book on faith, you can't let those kind of thoughts creep into the content as you're writing it. Have you ever battled with that?
I think that's where understanding your calling is really critical. As an author, as I've gone to writers' conferences and met other authors, there are certainly genres that are very, very popular, even within the Christian market. Genres where authors can churn out multiple books a year and be very successful in that. And I wouldn't in any way disparage the work that they're doing. That's what they feel called to write. But for me, I have to be sure that I'm writing what God has called me to write. And so I really don't think in terms of writing to the audience. I consider it an audience of one. If you've heard that expression, just as when we're worshiping in church or alone, or it's between us and the Lord. And so when I'm creating a story, it's about what story has God given me to write, not what do I think would sell.
I'm thinking as you were reflecting on that, and I appreciate that answer, because I think, especially when it comes to matters of faith, we can't let the world's agenda influence what God is telling us to do. But I got thinking about it as you were talking. Churches have fallen into this trap too, haven't they? They're putting on performances, and they just keep compromising and compromising. They say, well, we got to get the message out to some people. We got to get them in here, right? Mm-hmm. So it's really the same battle, isn't it?
Well, and I can say too, for
you can do things with excellence in a way that draws people in and still be pointing to the Lord as we're doing it, and we're giving glory to God as we're doing that.
I think you're exactly right, and that's something we take into account a lot when we make fundraising videos for ministries, because you do want to state the truth plainly, but you also want it to be using your, all the faculties that God gave you, right, and being strategic about it. So when we create a video, we aim for it to be honest and compelling, and also leverage what we know about psychology and what does get through to people. Because obviously we want it to be compelling without compromising the story behind it.
Well, and I think in the techniques, one of the things, it scares people when I tell them this. So try to keep an open mind. A lot of the when I was in college, we studied a piece of propaganda. We were studying the effects of propaganda, and the study was included in the study was the film Triumph of the Will. Have either of you heard of that video?
Yes,
Megan's nodding her head.
Yeah, we studied that as a part of German history in college as well, and it was really impactful for me to see all the psychological tricks they use, especially for video. And
right.
I'm glad you brought that up, because it's a very dear thing to me to make sure that people who are creating videos, that we have this great responsibility, because video is such an incredible tool that can be misused so easily.
Well, and you're on it, Megan, because the technology, whether it's video or the internet or social media, all this stuff, it is a tool. The tool itself is neither good nor evil. It's how it's used. And of course, the techniques that I studied in Triumph of the Will, the technique itself is not evil. The message that they were portraying, of course, is. You realize that movie to this day is banned in Germany. You cannot see it.
Oh,
there.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
But it's really amazing how you can present the reality within the within the rectangle, because anything outside of that rectangle is not viewed, and this makes it powerful because now you're controlling the content. So in Triumph of the Will, they were focused on everything was happy and all. Of course, you go outside of that frame, people were suffering and dying. But this is the nature of propaganda, and that word I use it, but people have cautioned me saying don't use that word. That's propaganda isn't lying. It's only presenting one perspective of the truth. If you watch a Chamber of Commerce video for San Juan, they're going to show you all the great things in San Juan. I've been there. Walk 100 yards beyond that, and it's really bad. And you all traveled internationally, so you've seen some stuff.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's why we have such a responsibility, right, to wield this tool correctly. And that's another reason why, I said I seek out a lot of clients, and that's because I want the videos I create to be doing good, right? I'm not going to make a video, no matter how much they pay me, I'm not going to make a video for someone who's in a business I don't agree with, or just their method of practicing business is shady, because once you've created that piece of content, you've put it out there, you have no control with how people perceive it. It's done, So there's a lot of responsibility on the front end to do everything in your power when you're creating a video that it's going to be good for people to hear, to be uplifting, to be encouraging, and to be encouraging action in the right directions.
Mom, you must be proud. I'm a father, and if my daughter, that's what I want my daughter to say.
I absolutely am proud. I'm proud, and I'm very thankful to the Lord for the work that He's done, despite all my failures.
Well, I'll share a testimony. I used to provide tech support over the phone for a company. I was a contractor, and I got a call, saying call this number and when they answered the phone, it was Planned Parenthood.
Mm.
And I stumbled around and said, "Hold on, I'll call you back." Well, I never did call him back. I shouldn't have said I was going to call him back. I had no intention of it, but so I called my employer, or my boss, whatever, and said, "I'm going to elect to exercise my option to decline this. I am a contractor." He says, "Well, they'll just assign it to somebody else," and I desperately needed the money. Megan, have you been in any situation like that yet, or can you envision it?
Yeah, absolutely. It wasn't as a part of our video business, but before I got my master's at the seminary, I was in an internship with an ad serving company. I was in lead generation, and part of my job every day was to take a list of URLs, right, and go see if we could find the contact person for sales, to see if we could serve ads on their platform. And many times, these were just computer generated lists of URLs and things like that. Well, many times they were for adult websites.
Uh-oh.
And yeah, and I spoke with the employer, my boss at the time, and I said, I'm really uncomfortable with this. And he said, well, you don't have to, contact them or anything. I was like, well, I appreciate that, but a little more uncomfortable than just that. And they actually offered me a full-time position at the end of the summer when I finished my internship, and I declined. And I told them very plainly that was the reason, that I couldn't be involved in a business that, because they did have customers who were adult sites. They served ads on adult sites and for adult sites, I believe, as well. So I had to tell them, like, I'm sorry. And that's actually the only time that I've been offered a full-time job with benefits. But it turned out so well, because by honoring my convictions in that, I ended up going to seminary, meeting my husband, and being where I am today.
I'm proud of you. I really am. Listen, it's easy. Felicia, I know that you must be proud. And it's easy to talk about faith. It's easy to talk about churchy stuff when it doesn't cost you anything. But you've been, to mission fields, and I know I have. And when I came back, I thought, we got problems here, but this is a great place to live, because there's some bad stuff out there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. And even the things that we've witnessed pale in comparison to many places where believers are being put to death or imprisoned or persecuted in all sorts of different ways. So we are blessed to be able to share the gospel here. We are blessed to be able to travel to other places and share with them, and we can't take that too lightly.
For sure. Well, I see that we have been joined in our green room by Dell Didway, who's coming up at the bottom of the hour. And so we're going to have to cut it off here in a few minutes. Felicia, what's around the corner for you? You're using Megan's video content. Anything new coming up that you're going to say, I can't talk about it, but can you give us any hints what's in the future for you?
Well, I'm working on the 4th book in the International Mission Force series. It's called Island Gambit, and it's set in Papua New Guinea. And I'm hoping to see that released in 2020. So we'll be updating the video trailer for the book series at some point based on that, assuming I can get on Megan's schedule in the coming year.
Well, maybe you can have her over for Thanksgiving dinner and Ladies, it's been a lot of fun. I have great respect for both of you in your respective disciplines, and I'm glad that you all could find a mutual time that we could all get together and just talk about things, and I appreciate you all. Maybe we'll do this again sometime. I can't wait.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, folks, that was PJNet Live Part 1, and that's only the beginning. We have Dell Didway coming up very, very soon, so keep it where you're at, because PJNet Live will continue.